On this episode of South Thought Computing, we'll be reviewing this Buyee, say that 3 times fast, car dash cam, and that's coming up next. Hey YouTube, long time, but I'm back, and we're doing our videos, and of course we got ourselves another car dash cam. This one comes from Buyee, apparently. So because there's no model numbers on this guy, I guess we'll just get right to the unboxing. Let's get to it. Okay, so it's unboxed. What do we have? Obviously we got the nice little camera here, and I'm kind of a little concerned because this looks exactly like one of the first cameras I've done way back when I first started doing this, but let's give this guy a benefit of the doubt. Of course, we have our useless Chinese manuals. We got our cigarette lighter to USB to provide power for the unit. We got our HDMI to mini HDMI cable, standard USB cable to micro USB, and windshield mount. And that's pretty much it. So we're gonna get our nifty little 12 volt 1 amp setup going on here to power up this camera and see what the menus look like, and we'll be right back. Okay, so now that we got the power connected here to our cigarette light adapter, let's go ahead and put in our micro SD card. This one here happens to be a G.Skill 32 gig, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that the SD card is in there, let's just do a quick walk around of this product. It looks very familiar here. This is the same exact case enclosure that I've seen in one of my prior initial videos when I first started doing this, but let's take off this protective lens cover here. In the front, you got the 4 nighttime LEDs. It looks like a speaker, microphone. On the top here, we have our AV out, mini HDMI, reset button, and USB. On the side here we have menu, up and down, mode. On the left side we have our power button and also record button, and that's it for everything around this particular camera. Let's get it some power. Okay, so this is looking very familiar here. Let's go through the menu options and see what we got. First, we're going to hit the record button on the bottom here to make it stop recording, and let's go to menu. Yep, and we've definitely seen this particular menu layout in the past before. So I'm going to go into resolution and hit the record button to select what I want. By default, it's trying to do this quote-unquote 1080p resolution, but we all know that the sensors in these cameras are not capable of doing that, so I'm going to put it at 720p. Save some space that way. Setting your recording loop. So here we're going to set it for a 3-minute loop when it creates each file for recordings. Exposure. Typically, if it's a good camera, you don't have to mess with this. Essentially, the only time I found ever having to mess with these exposures is when I needed to drop the exposure or increase it during nighttime views. But as I said before, if it's a good camera, you shouldn't have to mess with this at all. Motion detect, if you want this thing running and recording, say like when your car is parked, whether or not you want it on and off. Whether or not you want it recording audio, whether or not you want the time and date stamp when it's recording. Now we go back to the menu a second time. Here you set the date and time. So auto power off if you want this to turn the display off after a certain amount of time. So I'm going to set that to 1 minute. Whether or not you want the beep, set in your language. TV mode when you have it hooked up through HDMI. Frequency, it's at 50 Hertz, we'll leave it at that. G sensor. This setting here is for when you want to set the sensitivity on the G-Shock sensor. So for example, if you hit a bump, it might lock a file, or if you get into a car accident, it'll keep the footage and not accidentally overwrite it. LCD brightness, lamp settings, where you want them on or off or auto. We can set it to auto, I guess, and see what that does. And again, that refers to the lights in front of the unit. Format. I'm gonna format this SD card because I don't know what's on it. Whether or not you want to put the default settings, and let's check out what version this is. According to this, it's from 2014. And that's the rundown of the menus. Not that much, but again, we've seen this layout before, but I want to see what kind of nighttime vision this thing has and what other surprises it may or may not have. I don't know, it doesn't look promising because typically the ones in these enclosures are not the best when it comes to nighttime vision. Okay, let's take this in a car and see what we get. Okay, so here we have our daytime shot, and it's a big surprise to us that it's actually better quality and borderline 720p. Now, I'm kind of surprised because usually when we do reviews on these types of cameras, they are struggling just to get to 720 quality. But you have clarity. When you're close enough to a car, you could actually read the license plate. There's no blurry motion, and the audio quality from the microphone on this device works pretty well too. And here we have our nighttime shot, and surprisingly this camera is actually getting pretty good marks for the nighttime shot. Typically with these cameras we don't see anything, and we're lucky if we see the little light bulbs coming from those street lights. But yes, we could actually see where our lights are pointing on, the road, and the surrounding areas. Obviously you're not going to be able to see license plates, but this is kudo points for this particular camera and its nighttime vision. Okay, so final thoughts on the Buyee here. I hope I'm saying it right for the first place, but pretty much this camera was spot on for the price point. Obviously you can't expect too much out of these cameras when they're super cheap, but this one had pretty good 720p quality, and it actually had night vision when it was necessary. The camera also got plus points for actually a normal sounding microphone. Sometimes they're too overdriven, and other times you can't hear anything at all as far as the conversation is concerned. So in other words, yes, this is definitely buy this camera. You can't go wrong with the video quality as well as the price point. As always folks, if you like what you see here, give that video a big old thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, leave a comment, and even join our Southhawk forums. This is Dan from Southhawk Computing, and as always, until the next time.